Well, good day and welcome to you. It is May the 31st, and let's do this again. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And just point out, if you're new, you want to know more about this information, I include links to websites that have some wonderful background information about what we talk about. So check into it or not. And as always, I want to thank everyone who commented, but I do want to address a comment in this video. Arturus, the Abyss Walker, commented, and what did this person have to say that is something that I want to talk about? All right, so what did they say? For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Matthew 24. What a shocker. Another biblical quote thrown my way. But Arturus, the Abyss Walker, you might be surprised to hear me say this, but I agree 100% with this comment and this biblical passage, actually. Especially, see that ye be not troubled, for the end is not yet. I'll say that again. See that ye be not troubled, for the end is not yet. Who does that sound like? That sounds like Maitreya when he says, fear not, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. This is not the end of anything. This is the transitional time between the old and the new. And even though it's the transitional time between the cosmic age of Pisces moving into the age of Aquarius, it could also be said that it's the end of darkness into light. It's the end of all corruption and evil that we know it, and moving into a more cooperative and unified time and so forth. I mean, it's a momentous time. I think it's probably more momentous than what would be typically a momentous time of going from one age to another. So, and as tumultuous as it might be from in history, if we could go back and look at the times where we went from one age to another, it might be pretty rough, but nothing compared to what we're seeing to today. But it's not the end of anything. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. Well, I mean, and deceive many, excuse me. Of course. Have you heard Maitreya say he's the Christ? That would be my question back to you if you're listening to this, or anybody. No. In fact, he's been on TV for well over 12 years now, and nobody's recognized him because he's using an ordinary Middle Eastern name, like the equivalent of John Smith, but a Middle Eastern version of John Smith, whatever that is. He's not claiming to be Maitreya. He's not claiming to be some kind of spiritual giant or avatar, which he most definitely is. He's not claiming to be the Lord of Love, which he most definitely is. You know, even in the Asian community of London, when he was living in there, he might still be living in there now, but when he was living in there in the late 70s, early 80s, all the way through the 90s, there were rumors that were flying around that he was the Imam Mahdi, because there were a Muslim group of people that lived in that part of London. And there were people who apparently had asked him, are you the Imam Mahdi? And he said that is a name that he's referred to as, but he never said, I am that. And he even went on to say, if I'm the Imam Mahdi for Muslims, or you, what about the Messiah for the Jews, or the Christ for the Christians? He goes, these are just names. These are man-made names. And they cause nothing but confusion within the minds of men. He just refers to be referred to as, and claims to be, a teacher. But that's not unique to claim to be a teacher, now is it? You know, my mother taught for 30 years in the public school system. She claims to be a teacher. You know, my piano teacher, Miss Cook, claimed to be a teacher. You know, even my guitar teacher that I had in high school, Robert Newton, claimed to be a teacher. So the only difference between them and Maitreya is a teacher in the broadest sense. He's a teacher for the whole world. He's not just a teacher for a small group of elementary school classroom kids, or he's not just teaching piano, but he's just a teacher. But as with every teacher, whether it's a piano teacher, a guitar teacher, an elementary school teacher like my mother, or Maitreya, a teacher should be recognized by their teaching and judged by their teaching. And so with Maitreya, he's not claiming to be the Christ. He's not claiming to be anything. He's just offering advice to humanity. We either take it or we don't. If we take it and apply it and it works, well, then his teachings are maybe not enlightened, but his teachings are sufficient unto the day, as they would say. They're good. So, I had a teacher, a bass teacher in high school. His name was Robert Newton. Wonderful teacher. And I make that claim because the things that he taught me worked. They made me a better bass guitar player. He would tell me to hold my hands this way and not that way. Try it this way, try this scale, practice this tune, try this technique, blah, 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 this type of musical theory. And when I started to apply what he taught me, guess what? It made me a better musician. So I referred to him as a good teacher because what he taught me was good. If the teachings of Maitreya don't work, then he is not a teacher worth his weight in anything. Now, let's just break down one of his teachings. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. And without peace, there could be no future. Is there any truth to that? We talk about it all the time on this channel. And the reason why I do is because he says that the principle of sharing and the creation thereof of the principle of sharing is the most important thing that humanity needs to do at this time. So that's why we talk about it. It is the most important thing. But is there any truth to it? And I offer it up as historical evidence about the Marshall Plan. That was apparently the one and only time that humanity tried the principle of sharing, and it worked. They did it for 4 years amongst a tiny group of nations. But if you look at the list of nations that participated in it, mainly the Western European nations and the United States, those nations have not attacked one another since. They have a goodwill relationship with one another. So had we 70 years ago, instead of just limiting it to just a few nations and just for 4 years, had we done it globally and ongoingly, we'd be living in a totally different world, perhaps. We won't know until we try. But a teacher is always known by its teachings. Just as Jesus said, a tree is known by its fruit. You don't have to believe what I believe Maitreya to be in order to see the truth in his teachings. But he doesn't claim to be a Christ. And when I refer to him as a Christ, or Benjamin Creme did, we're not referring to him as the one and true only Son of God, and Jesus Christ is not the only true Son of God, and you should believe Maitreya and worship Maitreya over Jesus. There's no truth to that, even though that's what people think. I see him as the Son of Man, actually. And I understand what it means to be, what it means for someone to be a Christ is far different than the evangelical view of what they believe a Christ to be. It's totally different. One is solely and unique to Jesus, which I don't think there's any truth to that. The other one does not make him the Son of God, the only true Son of God, but being a Christ perhaps is quite rare throughout cosmos, but not unique. And we actually have two on this planet, Maitreya and the Buddha, who worked through Gautama Buddha. But the other thing is, the many shall come in my name, or many shall say they're the Christ, or whatever, and deceive many. You can look at today, and even look throughout history and see people who have done that. There's a guy in Australia who claims to be Jesus come back. Do I know his name? No, because I don't even care to know his name. Is there any truth to him being Jesus coming back? No. But yet he claims it to be, and there are people who believe him to be Jesus come back. Even in this little YouTube channel of mine that doesn't get a lot of exposure on YouTube, for some reason people gravitate to this channel who think that they are Jesus come back, or God, or the only true Son of God, or some kind of spiritual avatar or so forth, and comment on my channel, not all the time, but from time to time. So do I believe them? No. Would I even believe if Maitreya came up to me today on the street or at my job and said, I am the Christ? Would I believe him at that point? No, probably not. In the times that I met him and saw him in my personal life, he never once mentioned his name or being Maitreya, or mentioned him being the Christ or anything. And the times that I actually thought to ask him his name, he used a name like Doug. That was one of the names he used. I had to recognize him as Maitreya. But more importantly than that, the things that he was talking to me about at the time that ended up becoming very simple teachings for me changed my life. Teacher is always known by his teachings. So that's where I think the difference between somebody who has an ideological belief and thinks that this is in contrary to that, so they throw up biblical verses not really knowing who they're talking about, per se, but when if you really look at it and look at it from the standpoint of just as a teacher and the fact that he's not making any of those claims, then perhaps you'd have a different view of him. But you can look at people like even Donald Trump, not to talk about politics at the end, because that only creates nothing but indigestion, right? Or talk about it over dinner, I think is what FDR said. Don't talk about politics over dinner because it creates indigestion. I don't know, something like that. But people look to him as a demigod or as divine or as next to Son of God. He's even made the claim that he's done more for the Christian churches and Christianity than anybody in history. Does that mean even Jesus? I would say probably Jesus did more for Christianity than Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? I'd even say Paul did more for Christianity than Donald Trump. But there's somebody out there, namely Donald J. Trump, who believes he's done more for Christianity than even Jesus. And there are people who think that he is just as divine as Jesus. There are people who even have gone as far to say that if you don't vote for him, then you are against Jesus. But yet there's no truth to any of that. And they're deceiving many people in the process, deceiving the very elect, as it says in the Bible. And like I always say, if you went to Hyde Park in England, there are people who think they are the Queen of England. But there is a Queen of England in Buckingham Palace. Does she go around saying she's the Queen of England? She doesn't have to. Everybody knows it. Right now, Maitreya nobody knows that that's Maitreya, but eventually people will know and recognize him just as they recognize the Queen of England. He won't have to say it. But it's all about recognition of it. And that's the reason why Benjamin Creme made a stark warning and said to mention when you recognize Maitreya that's Maitreya on TV, to let other people recognize him for themselves for this very reason. So hopefully that helps. You guys take care. Have a great day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.